All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today with our SOMO at Home session. First, I would like to thank our sponsors. We have DeSoto High School, Hobson Lumber, and First State Bank of Farmington. So today we have Payton Ballinger here with us, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about making music. So go ahead, Payton.
Hi, so it's good to see you all virtually over Facebook. But today for like kind of my first one of these, I wanted to go over just some basic like music terminology, just so if I start saying words like pitch or rhythm or beat, you guys know like what I'm talking about because sometimes I can be a little hard to follow. But yeah, so let's get started on that. The first term I have for you guys is pitch. So pitch is basically how high or low a note sits in one's register. So pitch is measured in hertz, and hertz is basically how fast the sound wave or the vibrations in the air move. So if the sound wave moves really, really fast and the vibrations happen really, really frequently, then the pitch is higher. If the sound wave is longer and it moves slower, then the pitch is lower. Each pitch is given a different name in the musical alphabet. With the musical alphabet goes letters A through G, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats over and over again. So that is basically pitch, how high or low a sound is. Next for you guys, I have beat. Beat is basically the standard unit of time we use to measure music. This is how we count music. In music, we don't count beats based on how many there are in a measure. So beats like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1.5 kind of thing. So that's basically just how we count everything down. When you combine pitch and beat together, you get a note. So a note marking shows both how high the pitch sits and how many beats the note has, or the duration of the note. So these are different examples of a note. We have a whole note, a half note, quarter note, eighth note, and 16th note. So each of these, depending on which one you write, shows the duration of the note, or how long you hold the note out for. And where the note sits on the staff, which is what I'm going to get to in a second, tells you what pitch or how high or low the note sits. Before we move on to staff and talking about that, we have rhythm. So rhythm is basically a music's pattern in time. We count rhythm in beats, and this is how we make music a little more interesting. Rather than it just being like 1, 2, 3, 4 beats, we can make it 1.5 or add some variation in there. Tempo. This is another one that goes along with rhythm and beat. Tempo is how fast or slow a song is. Tempo is measured in BPM, or beats per minute. So if a song has a really, really fast tempo or a high number, such as 100 BPM, the song is faster. But if the tempo is marked slower, or say like 50 or 60 BPM, then the song is slower and is taken at a slower tempo. So moving on from those more like terminology things, this is what a music staff looks like. A music staff is written with 5 lines and 4 spaces. The spaces sit in between the lines. And where a note sits on the staff determines what the note's pitch will be. So if you move higher on the staff to like higher lines or higher spaces, then the sound will be higher. It will have a higher pitch. But if you move down the staff, the note will have a lower pitch. So there are 2 main staffs in music, or 2 main clefs. The first one is a treble clef, also known as the G clef. The treble clef is this little symbol. It kind of looks like a G. It was written as a G back in like the Baroque period of music and everything. But this guy tells us what letter names these lines and spaces are. So on the treble clef, the first line down here is an E. You start on an E on the treble clef. Then you move up. E, F is the first space, G is the second line, A is the second space, B is the third line, C is the third space, D is the fourth line, E is the fourth space, and F is the top line. So as you move higher up that staff, or on the treble clef or the G clef, you move higher in pitch. And the treble clef is the higher of the 2 main clefs. Below the treble clef is the bass clef, which is the lower clef. The bass clef is also known as the F clef, and is marked by different musical letters. So the treble and the bass clef have different letters that go with different lines and spaces. So on the bass clef, you start on G as the lowest line, and not E as in like the treble clef. So on the bass clef, you start on G and then go up A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up. And you count each line and space separately on both clefs. When you combine a treble and a bass clef on top of each other, you get what's called a grand staff. So you'll see this a lot in more classical music or sheet music type of things. You will see two clefs or multiple clefs stacked on top of each other, making a grand staff. So when you go up this, it's basically all of the letters of the bass clef combined with all of the letters of the treble clef. So you have a greater range, and a range is basically how many notes you have or how many pitches you have in a row. Now, you see I've indicated a note in between the staffs. That note is middle C, and it sits on what we call a ledger line. So each staff only has 5 lines and 4 spaces. That is not all of the pitches or notes that a person can sing. There are spaces above or below each clef that have their own pitch too. We indicate those with ledger lines. So again, the higher you move up the staff, the higher the pitch. The lower you move down the staff, the lower the pitch. And you can go on for quite a bit on these ledger lines. There are plenty above and plenty below. But those are pretty much the basics I have for you guys for when I start talking about more detailed theory in the future, or when I start working on songs and stuff. But that's pretty much all I have for you guys with basic terminology and stuff.
All right, is that all for today, Peyton?
I believe so.
All right, thank you so much. I loved your note cards. Those were so helpful, and we learned a lot. So hopefully we'll see you in the future for some more Making Music with Peyton.